Hey everyone, this is Dan from Supernova, and today, as part of our home learning series, we're going to be looking at two of the most important aspects of computer science: data types and variables. You might already be familiar with variables if you've ever taken an algebra course. In mathematics, we use a letter or symbol, commonly x, to represent a number. We can then use this number in equations. This is very similar to how variables work in computer science, except we get to have a little bit more fun with naming our variables, as we get to use full words. For example, I can have a variable called cats, which I can use to store the amount of cats I own. I happen to have 2 cats, there they are, so the variable cats would equal to 2. Now, when I inevitably adopt a new cat, this variable will go up by 1. Now that we've taken a look at what variables are, let's look at what kinds of values we can put inside those variables, otherwise known as data types. The simplest type of data you're probably already familiar with is integers, often shortened to int. An integer is any whole number, meaning it has no decimal points or fractions, that is either negative or positive. This data type is extremely useful when coding. Like in my cats example, the integer 3 represents 3 cats, no half cats or quarter cats, 3 whole cats. We can add integers together or subtract them to get new integers. For example, if one of my cats were to run away, I would have -1 cat, meaning the variable cats now holds the integer value 2 again. The next important data type is decimals. These are numbers that do have decimal points, meaning they don't have to be whole numbers. There are a few different terms for the decimal data type in computer science, which can get a little confusing. The two most common terms are a double and a float. These are both decimal data types, however, their level of precision varies. A float has 7 decimal points of precision, while a double has 15. The name double comes from the fact that floats are 32-bit numbers, while doubles are 64, i.e. double. These data types are great for equations where you need a variable to store an exact value. Like integers, we can add and subtract floats and doubles together. We can also add integers and doubles together. However, the result will change depending on what data type we want to store the result in. For example, if we add the integer 1 to the double 1.5, if we want to store the result in a double variable called answer, answer would equal 2.5 as the variable is of the data type double, thus the decimal places must be preserved. What do you think would happen if we made the answer variable an integer? Well, we would get the answer 2, as the integer data type will always round down non-whole numbers. The next data type is called a character, or char for short. A character data type will store any single letter or symbol, or even numbers. The tricky thing with using the character data type with numbers is we can't add or subtract with integers and doubles, as the data stored in the variable is literally just a symbol with no mathematical value. So when we add 1 to 1, we will most likely receive an error. However, in some programming languages, you'll get the answer 11. Why do you think that is? Well, it's because they're taking the character 1 and then adding the number 1 together to make 11. So if you ever want to prove to your friends that 1 plus 1 equals 11, just make sure one of them's a character. Moving on from characters, we can now look at strings, which are just a chain or string of characters. This data type has a wide variety of uses. You can store a sentence, an entire paragraph, a jumble of random letters and numbers, or just a simple word. The final data type I'll talk about are called Boolean Values. It's a funny word, but all it means is it stores the value true or false. This is an extremely common data type with many uses. For example, if we were to have a program that checks whether an equation is correct, we could have a variable called correct. If the user enters the correct answer, the variable correct is set to true. We can then use this variable to display a message. For instance, if correct is false, we can print wrong answer. And if correct is true, we can print good job. Now that we've looked at various data types, it's your turn to try. Tell me, which value belongs to which data type? Feel free to pause. 3, 2, 1. Did you get it? Well, here's the answer. So hopefully now you have a better understanding of data types and variables. This has been Dan from Supernova, and I'll see you next week.